So I know why we put the answer to the verify at the beginning so that people don't get the wrong information if they're not listening. But it's such a killer of the suspense. Like, if you were watching The Sixth Sense and the credit said Bruce Willis is actually dead. Like, that's pretty much what we've done here.
Alert.
Oh, come on. The Sixth Sense is like 20 years old. That's not a spoiler. You guys have never seen that movie?
No.
Yeah. Wait, you
No,
never
you
seen
haven't
it?
seen it? That's not a spoiler. Jeez. The time I
fine.
did Game of Thrones, that was a spoiler.
Fine, whatever. It's just another movie ruined by Keith.
But
It's
our
okay.
producer Ronnie's still mad about the time I've spoiled Game of Thrones for
That
people.
was pretty bad.
It
That
was-
was pretty, it's, and yet you still work here.
I do.
So-
Yeah. Yeah. Funny. That works sometimes. Must be the suits. 26 for a low this morning in Portland, 19 in Freiburg. Chilly, chilly stuff. We talked yesterday a little bit about whether or not you needed to scrape frost off. I said I didn't. This morning I did. 26 was cold enough to get it done. High temperatures in the mid 40s, 30s in the mountains. So we really never got all that warm. And of course you start that chilly in the 20s. It's hard to get much warmer than about 50 degrees. We did have sunshine, especially along the coastline, more clouds in the mountains. We'll reverse that overnight tonight because we've got a storm system that's going to be offshore here late tonight. It's going to miss us, but it will bring us some additional cloud cover along the coast, which will insulate us initially this evening. Temperatures will be a little bit slow to fall, but then eventually it clears out and temperatures do drop into the 20s consistently across the state. Tomorrow is a very similar day when compared to today. I think just a tad bit warmer, maybe a little bit nicer, a little bit more sun around the entire state, right around 50 degrees. Cool again tomorrow night into the 20s to around 30 degrees, and then a nice day on Saturday in the low 50s. I think the weekend looks really good. Saturday, maybe the sunnier of the two weekend days, just a little bit warmer on Sunday, but there's not a huge difference. It's just a pretty nice weekend for November, at least. High pressure blocking that storm off to our south and east. Tonight and into tomorrow. That is a definite miss. We're still watching the potential for this storm system that's developing down across Georgia that will move in our direction on Sunday into Monday, but we've got two possible paths. The models really are leaning more towards that out to sea path. I was ready to pretty much write it off completely this morning because the models kept pushing it east. And then, of course, the latest run came in and nudged it a little bit back west, just enough that I don't feel comfortable saying it's definitely a miss. And part of the reason I don't feel comfortable is it's a big storm. So if it got in here, it would have some pretty substantial impact. So we'll keep an eye on that still for Monday into Monday night. But I put on the 7-day probably a miss, and I think that's the most likely scenario. So that's Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, we should be in the upper 50s. Still a little bit of debate amongst the models of if we can crack 60 or not next week. Either way, we'll be sitting a little bit above average, and we'll ride into mid-November with nothing all too harsh overall. Average first snow is the end of this month in Portland. Average first 1-inch snow. We just looked this up. It was like, I believe it was like the 27th or 28th. Still have time to get there, I guess, but there's nothing too wintry in this forecast at all.
Okay.
Nice to think about November as a fall month instead of a winter month.
Yeah, and that's kind of how how it's playing right now. And I will get through at least the first half of the month like that.
Okay. Thanks, Keith.
What